everybody, welcome to Buddy Book Club. I'm Dylan, here with the man who seeks out adults and children alike to dazzle and entertain. And by dazzle and entertain, I mean devour the flesh from their bones and use their remains as armor. Keith, what's up, buddy?
No comment on that. I'll have my lawyers address those allegations. I won't speak on that.
I think that was a description of the Karsu, like crazy bat things, or lemurs maybe. I don't know. Either way, getting ahead of ourselves. Here at the Buddy Book Club, we're breaking down some bestsellers. And this week we'll be discussing Carl's Doomsday Scenario, Matt Dinniman's sequel to Dungeon Crawler Carl. If you'd like to recommend a book for us to read, reach out to us in my past episodes. You can visit our website, buddybookclub.com, or send us a message on X or Instagram. It's the handle's Buddy Book Club Podcast. You can listen to us iTunes, Spotify, wherever you get your podcast. Please download, give us a 5-star review, please, and thank you. Follow us on some social channels. Like I said, Keith, Carl's Doomsday Scenarios. 4.56 on Goodreads, I think. Pretty high. We had read Dungeon Crawler Carl, and we both were very pleasantly surprised, I would say. Was that, I don't want to put words in your mouth, but yeah, okay. And normally when it comes to series, we will read one and then we go on to a different book. It's just kind of the way things have worked out for us here at the Buddy Book Club. I don't know why. We have finished some, like Mistborn trilogy we finished, and obviously the Harry Potter series and Red Rising. But yeah, we wanted to, and I think it was me. I kind of said, let's just keep going with this. And I think mostly it was because the way that Dungeon Crawler Carl ended with, it didn't really end. It was just kind of, it seemed like it just stopped in the middle of the story, which I was fine with at the time, and I'm still fine with, but hence why we're here with Carl's Doomsday Scenario. Before we get into our standard categories, I'll give you the floor and you can go ahead with your book report.
Carl's Doomsday Scenario continues Carl and Donut's journey onto the third floor. Now, we had a bunch of questions after book 1, D-Man. We were excited the world to open up a bit more, get a peek behind the curtains. Did any of those questions get answered? No. We pulled back the curtains to reveal more curtains. I call this book 1.5, not book 2, because it was more of like an episode in a TV show. You get the same people kind of there, kind of a side quest, things like that. Now, did that mean it's boring or unenjoyable? No, it was still a fun, quick read. I'm still rooting for our hero, still chuckling at times, still asking questions like, who would I pick if I had to change my class? And would I change my race, Easy D-Man, if given the option? I think you just need to change your expectations going into this, or your settings and your gameplay from kill, kill, kill to maim, 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 and then you'll kind of appreciate it or understand it a bit more.
Ooh, set phasers to stun. Yeah, I like that. I think that's an A-. Book report. Because I think it encapsulates the feelings I had. So maybe that's all I'm doing is I'm just like happy because it's, you feel the same way I do about it. And it's funny because I use the same analogy in my head when I was thinking about this book, was that it reminded me of an episode of a cartoon animated series or something like that, like a superhero show where
Lois and Clark.
Wow. Oh my God. Don't get me started on that show.
A side episode without, who's the bad guy, the bald head guy?
Lex Luthor?
Yeah, without him in it as the bad guy, and there's no story advancement. It's just like
yeah, exactly. It's. Did you watch Saturday morning cartoons as a kid? Were you a big Saturday morning cartoon guy?
Of course, great show.
Yeah, so I was big into that. I was big into the superhero stuff. Naturally, we've already talked about X-Men, time and time again, but in that X-Men show that we both loved, there were moments where the overarching storyline was advanced, and those were great episodes. And then there were also episodes in there where it was like a one-off bad guy and some little thing happened that had nothing to do with the rest of the story. And even that might have been its own quick little story arc. And that's kind of how this book felt. Well, with that, let's get into some stock up, stock down. Keith, stock up, Carl's Doomsday Scenario. What do you got?
Well, not to beat a dead horse here.
Yeah, let's continue.
But Sammy Watkins, sophomore season at Clemson.
Ooh.
Very specific stock up. Very specific stock up here. But Sammy came in and had an incredible freshman year, set the world on fire at Clemson. Unbelievable. People are like, I remember them saying if he were going to the draft, he'd be the number 1 receiver taken, probably a top 5 pick as a freshman. Second season, his sophomore season, he hit the sophomore slump. And that is the first time I heard that term, but it's a very common thing after like a big first appearance to the second time you see them, that you're kind of expecting it to be magnified even more and to drop down. Yeah. And that's kind of what happened here. And I just wanted to point that out. Like, there's definitely that like, all right, well, this is going to be incredible now. Like every single book from here on out, it's going to get better and better. And sometimes you hit that sophomore slump. Even, Harry Potter, a lot of people said the second book. Yeah, people say that too. And I was reading the Reddit forums, and most people were agreeing that the second book was one of the weakest ones, which is a little disappointing. I almost wish we skipped this and went right to the third book now.
Well, I don't think so. I never want to. I mean, I hate skipping things. I feel like I've just missed something or whatever the case is.
Also, The Wire second season.
Dude,
so I could have done
that's my stock
reference.
up. That's my first stock up.
Yeah.
How dare you? Oh, you're really in my head. You got the brain parasite from the ice cream cone that Carl was licking. Yeah. So I guess I'll just jump into, which I agree with you, but my first stock up is The Wire season 2, and it's on two fronts here, which is one being many people view it as the worst Wire season, which I will disagree. I think it's very good, but it's hard for me to pick a worst. So I'm just going to say I liked it. But it's also important because for those that don't remember, it's the dead hooker season. And what do we get in Carl's Doomsday scenario but dead hookers? It's pretty much the main plot line of Carl's Doomsday scenario. They just took The Wire and put it into some lit RPG. That storyline, by the way, I didn't think it was that great. Or maybe it was just a little confusing for me. It's the, Gum Gum is the orc or whatnot. And she keeps trying to get Carl and Donut to take the quest, which they don't do until she's murdered. And it involves the town magistrate, his secretary, like Miss Quill, and her husband, Xerox or something. I don't remember.
And then there's like a TV show that's producers behind.
Yeah, that was the other one. That was the other one. This one, there's eventually like an Anchorman type battle between the 201st Security Group mages and Eunice, the pregnant dwarf, the city guards, Ricky Joe, and Carl's crew, where like Mongo eats the kid's arm and the kid's like, give me my arm back. It was all very just a lot going on there.
Now that you're saying it, I'm like, I do remember this, but I also don't remember this at all.
Yeah.
What's going on?
And then, they find the rest of the dead headless hookers, I guess, in some basement, and Remix, which creates a new quest, Fools Who Broke the Glass, and everything blows up, but Carl creates and then gains a Doomsday scenario, which is basically like this explosion necklace thing, but in a box. I don't know. It was...
I'm glad you summarized that, because
And I'm not even sure that's what happened. That's just quick jots down as I'm trying to figure it out in my own head. So it wasn't a necklace, it was a crystal. But either way, I was wondering where the Carl's Doomsday scenario came in. It came in at the end with this thing, which presumably will, down the road, be something that he uses, because it's pretty much just a bomb. It's a bomb that can blow up an entire city or whatever the case is. So maybe throws that down to whoever that horse god is that he's looking like he's going to fight at some point or potentially get in trouble with, throws that down his throat. But yeah, I just think that there was pretty much two plot lines going on in this book. We'll get to the other one, but I feel like this was pretty much the main one. And although it was entertaining, it by no means pushed our overarching narrative any further. And it was just seemingly an episode of a TV show, like we talked about. What else do you have for stock up?
Instant sober potion, stock up. So Mordecai would just down this and just be back to normal, which to me sounds like a pretty useful tool. I mean, just imagine the perfect example would be like a Monday national championship, basketball championship that just happened. You go out with the boys, you have 10 beers at the bar, you go to your car, you down this little thing, and you hop in your car, no hangover, you're not drunk anymore, you go back home, and you start the next day. I mean, it sounds incredible, right? Like you can have a good time, get lit, have no repercussions. The only problem with I find it is I think society would just stop if that happened. It'd be like Family Guy where they're like, this is what Ireland was like before whiskey was invented. Have you seen that clip? That's like my favorite clip.
Yeah, that's a good one.
That's what I think would happen. So I think it's a stock up because I would love it, but at the same time, society would not exist if it were a real thing because 90% of the time people would be drunk.
Yeah, I don't think it would be a good thing for society. I 1000% agree with you. But I too would love to have it because one of the things I very much enjoy is having a good buzz on And I'm not encouraging people to go around and, be drinking all the time. But to having a good buzz on it, especially like in the summer when you're maybe golfing out with friends or at the beach, or you go out for a nice long meal and you want to have that third cocktail. Like, yeah, I want to do that. But one thing I don't support and am not interested in taking part in is drinking and driving. Big anti on that front. So I often tend to be the driver in the household. So, I'll go and have a drink, but that's about it. And sometimes you just want to get that tasteful buzz on. I mean, I'm even thinking I'm going to golf with some buddies in a couple weeks, and it's like an 8 a.m. tee time. I don't golf, so I'm going because
you need swing juice.
So I got to get my swing juice in, but it's an 8 a.m. tee time, and then we're going to go out afterwards, like to his house or whatever the case is, have a barbecue, and I got to drive an hour back. So I'm like, shoot, I can't be overdoing it. But if I had this little Mordecai potion, I'd be all about it.
It reminds me of fat-free yogurt in Seinfeld.
Oh yeah,
you need the fat in there, otherwise everyone just eat it all. You need that. Like there needs to be consequences for your actions, unfortunately, which sucks. But
yeah, it's so funny that fat-free, just the way that we have as a society decided culture arcs or whatever, because it used to be fat-free was so important. But really, they just load up on all the sugar. So it's just, and sugar just turns into fat in your body, so it doesn't make a difference. And then it became like
it's just
paleo.
A misnomer, right? Like fat is a thing, and then it's also like you point at it saying there's fat on me, right? Like so that's I wonder if it's a language thing.
Yeah, exactly. Like, those aren't the same thing. If you eating fat, yes, will make you fat, but you eating sugar will also make you fat.
Right. Yeah. That's the problem. Is like there is fats, and then there is you're getting fat.
Yeah. But then it's funny because then it swung the other way, where it was like the paleo diet or Atkins or whatnot, which was basically have like T-bone steaks with butter, and you should just be eating sticks of butter. It's like, how would you just eat, people? Just chill.
I used to sell bulletproof coffee, which is butter in your coffee or whatever. Have you heard that?
I think so, but that sounds disgusting. It's butter in coffee.
It's like basically for people that want to stay in ketosis or whatever it's called. It's like
it's keto diet thing. Yeah, sounds terrible. Because also a side effect of ketosis is you get halitosis, which is when you have terrible breath, and then you have coffee breath too. So you get coffee, butter, bad breath. Sounds honestly
and then
sounds
taking
terrible.
Shits all the time too. I mean, it sounds.
Yeah, but speaking about drinking, my last stock up was Dirty Shirley's, which is
we love.
That was Princess Donut's drink, and it really is just a primo drink, and I applaud Princess Donut for her taste and sensibility. That's really all I had to say on the subject. For those that aren't aware, obviously, a Dirty Shirley is just a Shirley Temple with a little vodka in it.
I posted on TikTok. I remember I told you that. What was it called?
Oh, the one you made? Yeah.
Yeah, I rebranded it, and someone just said, "Isn't this just a Dirty Shirley? That's weak." And I said, "Yeah, that's right. Pink Pony."
Pink Pony. Stock down. What do you got?
Stock down. Slack/AIM.
Okay.
I remember the good old days of AIM where you would get on. It's Thursday night, and you were like, "Boys, we got a big weekend coming up. Let's get some N64 going. Maybe some James Bond, 007, or some Mario Kart, GoldenEye." It was just like the peak time, and then you'd obviously like. At least I would just wait until your crush comes on and just see her name there, not say one word to her, just hope maybe she'll reach out to you. Yeah, and then that one time that you actually reach out to her and you say something, the conversation goes nowhere and you'd never talk to them again.
Yeah, it's like, hey,
that was just the peak. That was the peak of that time of year. You know what I mean? So, But the reason I bring that up, not just to bring up how fucking devastating that was for me, is I didn't really like the fact that now that in book 2 that I thought about it, is like they're sharing all these secrets, especially talking about Mordecai behind his back in the chat. Like the whole point of a reality TV show is that you create the drama by exposing these things. So the fact that they allow a chat function, it seems to defeat the whole purpose. And I didn't like that they were able to like, you should have to, orate whatever you're planning. It doesn't really make sense for an audience to be like they're secretly talking and not, theoretically they would never have to say anything out loud. You know what I mean? Yeah,
I mean it's a necessary part of the book because otherwise, and it's one of the things that we're going to discuss, I'm sure, in our next book, The Hunger Games one we read, because if there's this, like the Borant Corporation or who's ever running the games is listening in on everything you're saying, you need to have some sort of ability to discuss tactics outside of their purview. So I agree with you, but I also disagree with you because I think it is an important part of Carl and Donut's ability to figure out this whole Mordecai thing. And obviously him being their manager now, or Donut's manager specifically, is going to play a role down the road, because that was a big thing that Odalyn, or whatever that other person's name is, I can't remember what her name is, but that was a big part of, she said, hey, make sure you find a class with this manager capability because you're going to need it. I remember when I got AIM, at least, and obviously dial-up internet, we're in our late 30s, so we were kind of like the primo, I don't know, for me it was almost like the perfect age group to get it, where we were early teenagers, and the number one best part of it, in my opinion, was, like you said, being able to set up hangouts with your buddies without having to call their house and have that awkward moment with their mom or dad where you'd be like, hey, is Mike there? And they'd say, who's this? You say, it's Dylan. It's like, let me find out. It's like, do they hate me? Do they not hate me? I don't know.
Do you ever get that voice? They answer and like, you're calling again? Jesus Christ.
Yeah.
I've always had that.
Or they'd say, he might be back in an hour, like, call back. And I'm like, oh, that's exactly what I don't want to do. I don't want to do this again. Right.
And you call back, they're still not back yet. Are you still calling?
Yeah.
My bad.
Or my buddy Hayato, who he's Japanese, and his grandmother was always at home, and she only speaks Japanese. So you'd call and be like, is Hayato there? And it would
she's
just be
pretending
confusion.
She didn't speak English. That was 100% what was going on this whole time. She's like, I speak perfect English, but I'm not dealing with this kid.
Bubba is a saint. My handle was Dill, nickname.
69420, obviously.
No, no. Dill. And then my first initial of my last name, which is O, and 17. So it was Dillo 17, but then you just have that forever. So I'm in high school, and everyone's like, what's up, Dildo 17? And I'm like, God dang it, I had no idea about any of this. I was just Dillo, and you just put a D right in there, and it becomes Dildo. God damn it. Yeah, that's another cross-eye bear. Thank God we've moved on to
now
text,
I know that. That's changed. Well, sorry.
Here we are. My first stock down is binge reading. So we live in a binge society, and I mean that in a different way than, they do in My 600-Pound Life. But we just love bingeable media. And I'm a victim of it myself. I'm currently binging White Lotus instead of starting Last of Us, even though, I'm not even really a fan of White Lotus. I'm just watching it, and because it's like, well, I started it, so I might as well finish it. Even though I know I have Last of Us, which I loved the first season, sitting there waiting for me. I just can't stand the idea of watching one episode and then having to wait. And we, at our house, Caroline had never seen Game of Thrones, so we just binged that, and it was my second watch of it. But as I'm watching it, and we're enjoying it thoroughly, she's loving it, I'm having to explain to her how we had to wait weeks between, between episodes you had to wait a week, but then between seasons you had to wait a year, and in between these times everyone's shooting around ideas and
that was the best part
screen. Yes, it's like you'd come to the office and you'd be shooting the shit at the water cooler. Hey, what do you think about this? What do you think about that? Did you see this article or this screen grab? So those were the fun parts, but unfortunately it feels like we don't have that anymore. But back to why this has been, binge reading is a stock down for me, because I'm just not sure Dungeon Crawler Carl, this series, is really conducive to binge reading. I think that was our problem here with it, because we went so quickly from Dungeon Crawler Carl into Carl's Doomsday scenario that, and we love the characters, we love the top two, but I didn't miss them enough. I think we needed to miss them more before rejoining the quest, because we had just spent so much time with them, and then we did this. I liked it a lot less than I think I would if we kind of forgot about it for a bit and then revisited this summer When it's more, this is more of a, oh, I could listen to this at the beach and have a really good time. But because we were just there and then this was such a downgrade, that's, kind of why I feel like we feel this way about the Doomsday scenario.
Yeah, that's a really good point. You got to miss the characters, to appreciate them a little bit.
Yeah, it's the sun and the rain, kind of thing.
It does bring me I wanted to bring up Andor because the new season's coming out.
Oh, is it? There's a new season?
Yeah, I'm debating whether I should hold off. Season 1 was probably the pound for pound the best season 1 I've ever seen of a show. Because I also went in thinking I was like, I'm not going to like this show. I'm planning not to like it. And it amazing. And then I rewatched it being like, it wasn't that good. I got to rewatch it. Amazing again. I was like, I would rewatch it again right now. It's that's how good I think it was.
Every Star Wars spin-off I found to be very much blah. I think the best was, besides Andor, was Mandalorian, but Mandalorian was more of like Carl's Doomsday scenario, where it was a bunch of these like episodes that were like a mix of Carl's Doomsday scenario and Kevin Sorbo's Hercules, where it's like him finding some people that need help, him helping them, and then getting a plate for his armor and moving on. So, it was fine. Where Andor felt like that was just a good story that happened to take place in the Star Wars universe. Which is exactly what they need. I don't know why they try to do anything but that. My next stock down is circuses.
Man, it's a pretty low stock.
Is it? You never liked the circus?
Well, it's weird because I feel like almost every single person is afraid of or does not like clowns. So the fact that they grew to such attention, I don't know who was liking them. You know what I mean?
Yeah, a clown is usually like, what are they called? Like the warm-up guy or whatever the case is? The
opener?
The opener. But I'm thinking of the guy who goes on like the Late Show and he warms up the audience. That kind of thing. It's kind of like that's what a clown does at a circus before you get to the trapeze people and the animals that are abused and stuff like that. So the clown does crowd work. Yeah, they used to have the Big Apple Circus in Boston that came around that I remember it being quite wonderful, but that was before we knew about all the abuse of animals and stuff that we're not really big fans of over here. But in general, I don't really get the other storyline in Carl's Doomsday scenario that we haven't talked about yet was the Grimaldi's traveling circus storyline. It's part of the Show Must Go On quest and the Vengeance of the Daughter, which is the serialized TV show that you were talking about. I didn't really follow it. How I understand this quest, the world that is, Carl's Doomsday scenario, is there was a creature, Scolopendra, that blew up a volcano or something and transformed all the living creatures, including most of Grimaldi's circus, but not Sarina. So she attacks the circus every night in an attempt to kill the ringmaster, like Grimaldi, the ringmaster. But then Carl ends up eating some parasitic ice cream, like we talked about that thing, freed Grimaldi from the parasites, and he and Sarina, I think they fell back in love and then went down to the 6th level. And that gives Carl the ability to strike some TV deal, or I don't know. Yeah, I don't know. It was entertaining at the time, but also I don't understand what was happening.
Did you write all this stuff down, or did you find some summary? Because I was trying to find summaries because I was like, I don't remember or understand what was really going on while I was reading it. So I'm glad you're able to summarize it.
I just use my notes thing on my app and I go Scolopendra ?
Yeah, it makes sense.
But yeah, there's moldy lions and stuff. The fights were fun. Like I said, it just it was a little harder to follow, I felt.
Agreed. Even the you summarizing, and I'm like, wait, what?
I don't even think that summary's right. If we had listeners that responded, they'd probably be like, that loved this book. We have
tons of listeners.
No, but I mean, that loved this book. They would probably say, Dylan doesn't know what the hell he's talking about. Here's what actually the whole thing was about, and would probably make it sound like a lot more sensical. But so Circus is stock down. Did you have any other stock downs?
Yeah, last one, emotional intelligence stock down.
Oh, what is emotional intelligence, Keith?
I'm not really sure, but I'm going to talk about it. I would think that if we met an advanced society, one that's far superior technologically, that they'd also have significantly higher emotional intelligence, and the thought of, or the concept of an insult would not even be in their vocabulary. They'd be like, what do you mean? I don't understand why would a word affect my feelings or my rational decision making, right? That's what I would think. But in this book, we see like these superior alien races that are the most sensitive people ever. They're like in their feelings at all times. Like you say one bad word about them and they're ready to destroy a planet. And it's like,
who are you talking about specifically though? Are you talking about NPCs in the game?
no, the political meeting there where they like shoot the rocket at the ship there and blow up the singer instead of.
Yeah. The uncle to the guy or the father to the guy that he had done.
Yeah,
the
maestro.
Maestro.
Yeah, they're supposed to be smart. Like, and then the same thing as like the Borant company. Like, you can't say one bad word about them, otherwise everyone's gonna know and everyone's gonna freak out. And like, they're like all these politics stuff that you would think that wouldn't really, as you get advanced intelligence, you wouldn't really affect things, but apparently it does. And I was thinking about it like, you talk to a pig and call a pig ugly, it doesn't care. But you call one of us ugly, you'd get upset. So I think the more advanced intelligence level, the more sensitive you get. I think that's what it becomes, which is disappointing. But maybe Matty Dinniman here is onto something.
Yeah. Huh. Who would have thunk that like the more frontal lobe you have, the more frontal lobe things you actually get affected by.
As someone that's less intelligent, I don't know what you're talking about, and I'm not going to be upset that you trying to insult me clearly because I'm less intelligent. That's a good way to think of it from now on.
Yeah.
So you don't take things personally. It's less. Actually, no, that's negative. Damn it.
You can't insult a rock.
I'm going to go with my theory that you're smarter. I'm smarter because I don't understand when you're making fun of me.
Yeah, you're more emotionally intelligent, that's for sure.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
There is a book on emotional intelligence. I can't remember. I think it's called Emotional Intelligence.
Do you know what it means?
I read the book, and that was a long time ago, but it's pretty much just about understanding people's feelings, right? And being able to empathize.
Every single one of these new self-help books are about that.
Yeah. It's funny when you run into people who just don't have that, like neurotypical people being, like my mom's a good example. She's great at like understanding people's emotions or whatever, but there's neurotypical. Come on, you don't watch Love on the Spectrum, bro? It's a great show. Great show. Great. Because it's a lot about emotions and like understanding how to read people's emotions, and they have to work at it a lot more than us neurotypical folks. And it's but they love so much deeper than we ever could. So that's nice. It's my number one feel good show. It's also there's a lot of cringe parts just because I have that internal, I can't watch that. I can't watch people kiss and stuff like that. So it just makes me uncomfortable in general. So it's good because it gets all the emotions flowing. But yeah, I guess we go read the book. We'll both go read it, but we won't do it on the Buddy Yoga Book Club. That's for sure. What about favorite characters? Did you have a favorite character in this one? I feel like we didn't. I mean, we had characters, but they were more bit type characters. Sarina Signet, she's the elite half naiad, half high elf summoner that gives Carl a full erection. Featherfall, the town magistrate, Mrs. Quill, eventually her husband Remax or whatever, a bunch of other bit people like Gum Gum and whatnot. I assume you didn't really pick anyone out, but
no, I kind of more wanted to call out Katia.
Was that the
I didn't understand who she was or why she was there. They're like, yeah, just take this random person on. She's a shapeshifter, and I was like, who? And they're like, yeah. And then she's like, her face is messed up. I don't like, who is this person? Why?
So
why
she's
would
part
you
of the like Amazonian women's group, her clan or whatnot, but got separated somehow, or was told to go find Carl and Donut, and they're gonna help her level up. I think was the vibe that was going on. But
yeah, I just didn't understand the motives. I didn't understand. I feel like bringing someone into your party is pretty sacred, and they're just like,
yeah,
and then she didn't really have. Yeah, she didn't exactly, and she didn't have much of a personality either. Like there wasn't really. I think we like got introduced to her for like a minute, and they're like, "Good luck with your face shifting," and then that was it. I thought this was a weird. Unless there's some big reveal coming later for her or something, I didn't understand what was her purpose. I don't know. Did you understand it?
No, I didn't either. I don't know how they all got intertwined really, or I can't remember. I'm sure it was said, but their goal was
at the show. Like they met.
They met. The Amazonian woman, and she's
like, just take this person on, and they're like, okay, that's it.
Yeah, why didn't she take her on? Or how did they end up in her party?
Yeah, I guess they weren't close in the game or whatever. She got separated.
The world got bigger or something along those lines.
I don't know.
Yeah, no big deal.
That was more my question.
Yeah, I think Mordecai probably took it for me just because we get more Mordecai in this one, and I liked the manager wrinkle. Like I said, it's going to evolve down the road likely. The rest of the characters, they did bit parts with brief story arcs, not really that interesting. We did have Donut evolve a bit here as well, with her heart starting to show, her willingness to save the NPCs. After Gum Dum dies, she was like, all right, we're doing this quest, even though Mordecai said not to. So Princess Donut, and I mean this in the nicest way, was like a cold-hearted bitch, and it seems like her heart is warming. So I appreciate that. And Carl continues to be, a guy with a big moral compass who's a great main character. So yeah,
I do like that they were like, Gary, you're going to go help that person. We both knew that. Like,
yeah.
I thought that was good.
Favorite part of this one?
Yeah, I mentioned it, that TV show, like the political drama. Like, that's when I was like, all right, we're kind of starting to get somewhere now. I kind of want the world to open up. And we'll talk about this in the next book. But, like, I feel like there's a rule that I'm starting to establish of the Empire Strikes Back, or like the Hoth rule for sequels, where if you just do the same thing over and over. Empire Strikes Back was so good because you went from this perfect formula of, here's a guy that learns out he's a Jedi. You could have just gone back to his home planet, had some story there of like the same exact thing, and then a fight with Darth Vader at the end. Instead, it opens up, it becomes, you're in Hoth all of a sudden, a completely opposite planet.
Yeah.
You get introduced to a new bad guy, the Emperor. You find this big twist with his dad being, it's like this, there's like 10 different variables got thrown into there instead of just doing the same formula. Because most people, like, you have a successful first movie or book, just do the same exact
rinse
shit.
Repeat. Yeah, we got the money, rinse repeat, especially when you're George Lucas and you're doing this on kind of his first massive, it was his first massive hit, and it was a risk to go back and continue his space opera, and opening up with Hoth, which is so much different than Tatooine. So we're talking about a desert planet to this snow fortress,
and you meet the rebellion. It opened up so much stuff that it became. That's the reason why I love fantasies, because
you get the zoom out. It's the zoom in started it off, which gives us which makes
Red
us
Rising,
fall in love.
example.
Fall in love with these characters, and we're then invested in these characters, and we know they have a piece in the overarching thing, but we don't necessarily know how big it is. And then all of a sudden, that second one comes out, and you realize, oh my God, there's so many moving parts in here. Our main character is just an ant in this giant yard of a story. And so, I agree with you.
Once we start getting a taste of that, where it's like there's all this political stuff at play and all these different races, and people get offended by different things, I was like, oh, this is sick. But then we only got a taste of that. So that was my favorite scene. But what about you?
The race and class choosing. It's just always fun to see what the options are and how they make those decisions. Carl goes for a primal compensated anarchist, which those were interesting, his options there. And the primal piece, I think, is the most interesting because they are supposedly some mysterious ancient alien race. So I feel like we're going to learn a lot more about that down the road. And Princess Donut chooses a cat, naturally, and a former child actress, which hers were pretty funny, I thought, too. That part was the same funny as it was interesting and exciting to see what they choose. Because for me, even when it came to Pokemon, where you're choosing, water, fire, or earth, I think that's what it was, right? What's Bulbasaur or whatever? I don't know. Either way.
I didn't do Pokemon.
Yeah. Oh, really? You didn't do that? Yeah. Even then, it was tough for me to, because these decisions feel so, I don't know, it seems so permanent when you're playing this game. You're going to invest 150 hours in it. And so making these decisions in a game, even when I'm playing Gauntlet Legends, it's like, oh, do I want to be a mage? Do I want to be a warrior? Do I want to be this? So I always find that to be fun because it's a little stressful to decide to pick what you want to be for the whole time. I know you play Dota, but you can always just switch, right? It's one game you could be this, another game
it's
you
not
could be
like
that.
Like I said, it's more of a chess game. So each game is.
Yeah, so you're I'm playing as the rook, I'm playing as the bishop.
Yeah, and it ends. It's not like you this is my profile, because World of Warcraft is probably what you're thinking of. Where it's I'm a tank and that's it. I'm going to be that for the rest of the next 100 hours I play this.
Yeah, exactly. What about love hates? What'd you love?
I think I mentioned at the top, but it's still a fun book. It's a quick read. There's no point did I have what you get a lot with a lot of books is like the rolling eye moment, or like the this is way too long, like get to something point. It's just fun being in the world. I know that it was a little bit more confusing, and I did wish there was a more story or like plot progression, but it's still overall just it's like you could be doing a lot worse. That's for sure.
Yep. Quick read, fun read. I love the shift of the look of the dungeon. So in the training levels, which is the Dungeon Crawler Carl, we get what we would think of as a dungeon. You know, they're in a dungeon. And in this book, now they're out of the training levels, we move to this overcity, which feels more like a medieval world than like an actual dungeon. And it has a much more of an open world concept where they can pretty much decide. I know obviously in the dungeon they can decide where they want to go, but it's open world. So it's like there's a town over here, there's a town over there. There's, you know, you can kind of release yourself into this world and try to figure it out. So I like the look of this world. I didn't quite understand the whole volcano situation. Like it's sitting on top of a volcano, and so the next level is going to be down into the volcano, I guess. I don't know. Reminded me of Mario 64 when you have to jump into the volcano. But outside of that, I thought the world was cool. I was into it. I thought all the new creatures were fun and well thought out. I guess, you know, we'll just roll into hates, because my only hate was that I was a bit confused at times, or it seemed a little thrown together.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think we already kind of gone over all the hates. Yeah. It's also, I think he wrote this as probably like a blog, or, you know, kind of similar to what
for The Martian, Andy Weir.
The Martian, yeah, Andy Weir did, where it's like, oh, now I got to put these stuff together. Like it wasn't necessarily meant to be a clean book.
Yeah, it seemed like a bridge book. It's a bridge book, 1A.
Yeah,
like
1.5.
1.5, like you said before.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I think that's kind of it. So we don't necessarily even need to do like who the book's for, because it's for the same people that we talked about for Dungeon Crawler Carl. But what would you give it? We're going out of 5 now. Goodreads 5. How many buddies out of a Goodreads 5 would you give it?
Yeah, I'd give it a 3.5. So I think it's like middle of the road. That's what I would say. You know, like again, there's enjoyable parts, but I wouldn't necessarily say, oh, this is the, you know, you have to read this book. So 3.5 I think is fair. What about you?
Yeah, like I want to say 3, but that doesn't mean it's bad by any means.
That's exactly what I was thinking. I was like,
that's the problem.
Like 3 is like almost is like a flip a coin to whether you read it. 3.5 like gives that a little edge. That's why I basically put it up.
Yeah, but if someone said, "Hey, I'm going to get into the Dungeon Crawler Carl series, but I don't have a ton of time. Can I skip 2?" You would say yes.
Yeah.
So
I mean, I don't know what book 3 entails. Like, I don't know if there's a couple breadcrumbs that you needed to know here, but for at least what my thoughts would be yes.
Or can I read the Wikipedia page and be fine?
Yeah, I wish there was more Wikipedia page on this.
So that's kind of for me, and I don't think that's bad. The problem with Goodreads is that, and we're part of this too, where if it's not over a 4, I'm like, oh, that book probably sucks. But I feel
the problem with the sequels is they're always going to be higher because it's the fan base that's reading the sequels. If you didn't like the first book, you're not reading the second book.
Yeah. So like this being a 4, 5, 6 or whatever, it just seems absurd to me. But I think in my own world, I think I'd give it a 3, and that'd be fair. So that's what I'm going to go with.
Yeah, that's fine.
All right. Well, that was Carl's Doomsday scenario. We're going to take a break. I'm sure we're going to go back, but we're going to take a break from Carl because we need to miss the characters a little bit. I think this will be fun maybe over the summer as like a beach read type situation. Mm-hmm. So while we take a break from Carl and Donut, what do we got coming up next?
We have Sunrise of the Reaping by Suzanne Collins, a prequel to the Hunger Games book. So this one had good ratings on Goodreads, which we, at least me, will potentially be disputing pretty heavily, and probably going to have one of those episodes where it's a lot of ranting going on. But yeah, that's a preview for the next one.
This is good because I'm almost done with it. I think I have 45 minutes left or something like that. Mm-hmm. And you did the thing that we each do to one another sometimes when we're reading a book, and especially when we suggest it. You gave the my bad text. Hand up, my bad. Yeah. And because you had recommended it. And as I was reading, I was like, it's fine. Like, it's not terrible. So, which I feel like is always the case. Anytime I say hand up, you're like, oh, it's not that bad. And then vice versa. So maybe it's just like you're holding yourself. We hold ourselves to a higher standard. But yeah, I'm excited to talk. All right. Well, Keith, thanks for chatting Carl's Doomsday scenario. And I'll catch you for Sunrise and the Reaping. Something like that. Yep.
Sunrise on the Reaping.
Sunrise on the Reaping. Got it. Okay, cool. We'll catch you next time.
All right. Bye now.